The new Black Clover chapter revealed Asta's new power, pretty much confirming things like anti-magic zone, anti-magic skin, and everything else that magic knights can create based on mana. Because all of those techniques are based on the unconscious manipulation of ki that people use to manipulate mana, which creates magic. Magic is the manipulation of mana, and mana is manipulated by using ki. So Asta can perform any magic unspecific technique based on mana with his own anti-magic, as he is clearly shown in this new Black Clover chapter 339. Asta might even be able to use anti-magic spells. If you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video. Let's go! The new Black Clover chapter starts seconds after the end of the last chapter with Yami's sister Ichika grabbing Asta by the face like Yami always does, clearly showing that they are related. They literally have the same personality. Asta confirms that Yami never mentioned that he has a little sister. This may sound obvious at first glance, but it's definitely not. Yami has never mentioned that there's a vice captain or other Black Bull members. And just remember how casually Asta revealed that he knew Henry was around all along. So yes, this confirmation is definitely important because it could be relevant that Yami never talked about his family. Why is that? Does he maybe not even know that he has a sister? Was he banished by his family? Does he have a difficult relationship with his parents? So many questions arise when you think about why he has never mentioned his family. It really is important. We know that he referred to himself and his folks as fishermen. By his folks, he could have meant the people he lived with who may not be related to him if we assume that he had problems with his real family, which may be why he had to grow up as a fisherman outside the Yami clan. We know that he was sent fishing as a child and just disappeared, and then suddenly he was in the Clover Kingdom. The way he described it, it must have had something to do with the weather. That's kind of absurd considering Ryu told Asta he couldn't return without help, even though Asta can fly insanely fast. So everything Yami said about his past is nonsense, whether he's aware of it or not. Maybe his memories were manipulated and he really believes his story, or he's lying for some reason. Or maybe it's a mixture of both. Yami could really believe that he accidentally ended up in the Clover Kingdom even though it was caused by someone else. But at the same time, he knows he's not a fisher boy. But he lied because he doesn't want to be associated with his family for whatever reason. There's evidence for both possibilities. For example, when Yami received his grimoire, he looked at his dark magic as if he didn't know he could use such a power. It's almost as if he has never seen anything like it. Although Ichika has now clarified that Yami's family does indeed use dark magic. That's why Yami is his family name after all. Yami means darkness. Of course, we can't confirm this assumption, but from the way Yami's backstory was explained, it seemed that Yami didn't use his dark magic until he received his grimoire. That was also the moment when Julius began to notice Yami. With the new Black Clover arc, we now know that Yami was shipwrecked in the Clover Kingdom when he was 13 years old, and didn't receive his grimoire until he was 15. This confirms our prediction that Yami was in the Clover Kingdom for at least 2 years before he received his grimoire. But during those 2 years, no one talked about anyone using dark magic. So Yami most likely didn't use magic until he received his grimoire. And as mentioned before, Julius' sudden interest in Yami after he received his grimoire is a very strong indication of this. This will definitely indicate that Yami himself doesn't even know his own family, be it that his memory was manipulated or that he really never knew who his parents were or that he has a sister or comes from a family that can use dark magic. But there's also a big hint that Yami's in denial about his family when we look at how Ichika feels about Yami. She basically says that she doesn't care about this man. Here she doesn't even call him by his name, Sukehiro. She calls him a man, as if he's literally nothing more than a normal man to Ichika. It is as if she's putting him on par with all men to show that there's no sibling relationship between them, whether they are actually related or not. This could speak to Ichika being angry at Yami for leaving her alone when they were little, for example. Something like he promised to come back but never did. Or maybe he's a disgrace to his family name. Something along those lines that provides an actual reason why Ichika seems to have no interest towards her own brother. Of course, her hatred for Yami could also be based on a lie. That possibility definitely exists as well. Let's continue with the Black Clover chapter review. Asta suddenly gets a lot of attention from the citizens of the land of the rising sun. And this is not necessarily because he has a double arm, at least not mainly, although this has also been mentioned, but simply because they see him physically as a foreigner. They don't know anything like him in the land of the rising sun. They even wonder about the color of his hair. Basically, they understand that Asta is not from this country, just by looking at him. And this clearly shows that such a thing does not happen that often, maybe even never. Asta could be the first person from outside the country in many years, maybe even for generations. There must be a reason why this country is so isolated. I would even go so far as to say that they look a little nervous. You can see them whispering behind Asta's back and taking postures as if they are afraid. We see that sweaty expression on all of them that people have in anime and manga when they are nervous or afraid of something. From this we can clearly deduce that the land of the rising sun has definitely had bad experience with foreigners, be it that they were once at war with foreigners or simply that they are so isolated that they are afraid of everything that is different from themselves. But then there will be no reason to be afraid, but rather to be curious. Perhaps this aspect of fear comes from stories and legends about foreigners that describe them as dangerous, but it also speaks from some kind of experience in the past that led to such a legend being written that way. It's as if someone in the past made people in the land of the rising sun fear foreigner in order to protect them from intruders. We even see Ryu noticing this sentiment among the population. We should definitely keep an eye on how this aspect develops in the future chapters. The scene then changes to a place where Liebe has been healed all along. It's probably the same place where Asta woke up at the beginning of this arc. Considering the fact that Liebe and Asta were separated and only now got back together could be strange. Why was that? What is the reason? The whole sightseeing thing could have been done with Liebe and Asta together. There was absolutely no plot relevant reason why it was handled this way, unless Tabata didn't want to introduce too many important characters from the land of the rising sun at the same time, simply so as not to overload our experience with too many new characters so that we would find them irrelevant. But I still wouldn't rule out that they might have actually done something with Liebe, something that Asta and Liebe don't know about yet, even if the chance of that is very slim at the moment. No matter how friendly these people seem, I wouldn't blindly trust them for several reasons, not only because of the fact that Asta and Liebe were separated, but also that Asta's grimoire is still missing. And that, for example, Ichika has a grudge against her own brother, that people from the land of the rising sun seem to be afraid of Asta, that Ryu knew what was going on but did nothing about it, that Ryu knew Asta would appear in the land of the rising sun eventually, that Yami doesn't know his own family or maybe even lies to the people of the Clover Kingdom, that Asta can't return, although Yami apparently got to the Clover Kingdom only by using a fishing boat, which suggests that someone must have helped him, and of course the potatoes of Asta's home village. So let's not be too naive about the people of this land. It doesn't mean that they are evil, but you can't trust them blindly. They may be the nicest people in the world, but if they have experienced something traumatic in the past that involved foreigners or devils, they will not be friendly towards Asta. Back to the new chapter. The name of the new character is Mikuria Fumito. The name Mikuria is of course Japanese, like all the other names in the land of the rising sun. Mikuria is basically the honorific term of Kiriya, meaning kitchen. In medieval Japan, Mikuria referred to a manor house of the imperial family. Perhaps this is a little wordplay that Tabata made because Fumito is also a cook, as we'll see in a moment. Fumito is introduced as what we would call a healing mage, and not just a regular healing mage, but a prodigy, a genius to quote Ryo. We have often explained why the healing method used on Asta is impossible unless something very unusual was involved. The short explanation is that Asta can only have a completely healed scar if he was healed to the point where the wound was closed and the rest was taken care of by his own body, due to natural healing process, which explains all the scars on Asta's body. But this healing process takes time, weeks, even months. There's no healing spell that speeds up the healing process of Asta's body unless we assume time magic, so something about Fumito is special in terms of healing magic, and obviously it must have something to do with ki and how people in the land of the rising sun amplify their magic using ki, as we see later in this chapter and as we also explained in our previous video. In this video we explained the true potential of ki in great detail, in relation to what we already know in Black Clover, and even with references to the Japanese understanding of what ki really is. You can find the link in the comments. It is a really good video that you will definitely enjoy. Fumito reveals that it took him a little longer with Liebe because it is the first time he has medicated such a creature. By such a creature he means either a devil or a creature that has no magic, but anti-magic. If he means devil, then he assumes that devils are fundamentally different when it comes to their bodies, which Lycita did imply when she said that perhaps because Liebe is a devil, he is not affected by her illness, although later she could use this disease against Lucifero. We also have to take into consideration that Yami's body now resembles that of a devil, and Mimosa was still able to heal Yami completely without any problems. We have seen other devils heal themselves with normal magic, so it's likely that Fumito struggled to heal Liebe's anti-magic body due to anti-magic, much like Mimosa struggled struggled to heal Asta's body when he released anti-magic, preventing magic from affecting his body. Tabata is definitely hinting at the future power-up with all these little hints. Perhaps some kind of anti-magic armor that can protect Asta from all kinds of magic. Theoretically, that would be an anti-magic skin, and that was strongly hinted at in this chapter. I will now give the mic to my partner. He will continue this Black Clover chapter review. Enjoy!
Then there is the meal, where once again the special no potatoes of the Hodge village are highlighted. The fact that Tabata once mentioned these special potatoes is fine, but that he now mentions them again clearly shows us that something about the Land of Rising Sun is not as it seems. It was explained that these potatoes only grow in the village of Hodge, but now they are in the Land of Rising Sun, a place that is believed to be so far away from the continent of the Four Kingdoms that no one can reach it without help, not even Asta, who can use his anti-magic to fly at insane speeds. There are really only a few possibilities. Either the Land of Rising Sun is not real and it's all an illusion. So either this is the afterlife, an allusion to Valhalla, where Asta will train to return stronger than ever, and these potatoes are just a reflection of his mind. Something like that. Or the Land of the Rising Sun is in contact with the village of Hodge for some reason. Or maybe there was a contact at some point. So maybe one of the people of Hodge is actually from the Land of the Rising Sun and brought the potatoes to the village. For example, Sister Lily, because it would fit since she was the one who teleported Asta to the Land of the Rising Sun. If we assume that she manipulated Beelzebub Lily's spell with her last power before losing control completely. Tabata definitely alludes to something like that when it comes to the importance of these potatoes. Ryu then reveals that Fumito is not only a genius at healing magic, but also at cooking, which we mentioned earlier when we explained the meaning of his name. We mentioned that Mikiriya refers to a mansion of the Imperial family. This means that Ryu could be from the Imperial family if, for example, Fumito is Ryu's cook. This could mean that he basically is a royal. Now, if Ryu is related to Yami, then this house could also be the house of Yami clan, which would explain why Ichika is by Ryu's side all the time, simply because they might be related. This would make our theory that Yami is a royal from the Land of the Rising Sun correct. Unless, of course, it's only the house of the Shogun, in which case Shogun is not inherited by blood relationship, but is a title given to the strongest sorcerer. Nevertheless, it's a hint that Yami clan could be royal. We cannot ignore this possibility, and the reason why Ryu's name is not Yami could be due to the fact that he is the Shogun and has been given the title Dragon, which is the meaning of his second name Ryu though. So he kinda gave up his last name for the time he serves the Land of the Rising Sun. But this idea should be taken with a grain of salt though. Let's continue with the chapter. Asta again asks to be returned to the Clover Kingdom, and this time panics a bit because he doesn't think he can get any stronger in this short time. Suddenly he was slapped by Ichika, who basically tells him to shut up and follow her because she wants to show him something. She takes him to the backyard where we see a pile of bamboo sticks. Ichika wants to show Asta a new technique. Asta is confused and tells them that he has no magic, so what could they teach him? The answer is the concentration and sense of ki. Not just feeling where the ki is and how it feels, but seeing the ki itself. The form, the flow, the differences in appearance. The way Asta used his ki is very primitive. This lesson will change everything. The way Ichika uses ki confirms much of what we mentioned in a previous video. You can find the link in the comments below. And now it's even more worth watching this video. Everything is explained there in great detail. It was then revealed that ki is a flow of vital energy that everyone unconsciously manipulates to control mana to then create magic. So even though you need mana to use magic, you primarily need ki to control mana. Ki then is the basis of everything that has to do with magic, and it's thus the most important aspect of combat. So, in a world without magic, it almost doesn't matter that you don't have magic if you are a master of ki, as Ryu clearly proves. This is a very clever irony that Tabata has created here. Asta lives in a world where everything is magical, but he is the only one who cannot use magic. What no one knows, however, is that ki is much more important, and Asta will very soon be a master in this regard, while everyone else in the Four Kingdoms knows rather less about ki or have never heard of it. It is explained that when people use ki consciously while they use magic, they naturally increase the power of the output. Asta never thought of using ki in this way, but he understands that he uses anti-magic in a very similar way to how normal people use mana, and so it is only logical that he can use ki with anti-magic in the same way. When When he thinks about it, he believes that such a use of ki with anti-magic is a bit like how people use mana skin. What Asta meant by that is that people control their mana to wrap around their bodies with a mana layer to protect themselves from environmental influences. For example, in reality, they manipulate their ki to manipulate their mana even without knowing it. Now that Asta has a contract with the anti-magic devil Liebe, he should be able to use his own anti-magic. And then he can do all kinds of things with anti-magic just like people with mana. So, if the mana zone is based on manipulating ki, then an anti-magic zone will be officially confirmed. The same goes for anti-magic skin, anti-magic reinforcement, anti-magic restraining, anti-magic trap, and so on. Even anti-magic runes could be possible. It all depends on how exactly ki is involved in the process of all these magic techniques. And then we see Ichika using ki-enhanced mana to cut through the bamboo without touching it, similar to Yami's Dimension Slash. Ichika's technique is something that anyone can do with mana ki control. With this, even people who have almost no mana can become extremely powerful simply by boosting their mana. When Ichika asks Asta to repeat the same thing, Fumito explains that it is impossible for Asta to do because this is one of the highest levels of ki control and only the 7 Ryujin can do it. This suggests that Ryu could be one of the 7, although he gives the appearance that he is not. Otherwise, there would have to be 8 people who can use this technique. The point is that, if Asta is able to use this technique, he's literally a prodigy of the use of ki, at least on the same level as Yuno, as he is a prodigy in the use of mana, and Asta learned to sense ki with only a few tries. Asta tries this method and we see his anti-magic take the same form as Ichika's mana, indicating ki amplification. Then he strikes, but at first nothing happens. This does not surprise Fumito because it's an extremely advanced technique. However, he forgot that Asta doesn't use mana but anti-magic. This has a completely different property. Shortly after Asta hit the bamboo, it began to dissolve under the influence of anti-magic. And since everything is made of mana, Asta could theoretically damage everything in the same way. His anti-magic slash did not hit Nak directly, but the effect of the anti-magic radiated in such a way that part of Nak's mana-based form was dissolved. Here, we can clearly see the same thing happen. He might even be able to use anti-magic spells now. We know that grimoires work by using mana as a source to create magic, which is written down in the grimoires as spells. Of course, if someone doesn't have the source for spells, they will never be able to use a spell to begin with. And since Asta is believed to be the one who possesses the 5-leaf clover anti-magic grimoire, Liebe, even though he possesses anti-magic, cannot be the one to use the spells written in the grimoire or even receive new spells. But now that Asta has unlocked his new source of anti-magic, maybe something will change in his grimoire and he will start using spells or receive new spells, since he now has access to the source that must be used to create spells. The chapter ends with Asta finally realizing that he can get much stronger. Let us know in the comments below what you think of this new Black Clover chapter 339. That's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.